Tonight on our news is two straight for one family. The A group is declared the unofficial winners of the 2023 New Year's Day parade. We've got reaction from the group's leader. Eager Junkanoo lovers flock to the New Year's Day parade as Junkanoo groups show up and show out for the crowd. And a man and woman killed during an early morning home invasion. Police say it was a tragic end to an early morning altercation. Plus, volunteers reveal why they've made it their mission to end hunger in the Bahamas. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Another big win for the One Family Junkanoo group as they were declared the unofficial winners for the 2023 New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade.
And the winner of the New Year's Day 2023 with a score of 92.37, One Family.
That was the moment the One Family Junkanoo group found out that they unofficially secured the overall win for the A division. The group capturing several wins, including Best Music, Best Overall Performance, and Costume. Chairman of One Family, Christina Muffin Fernanda, is the first female chairman of the group. Fernanda was emotional as she expressed how much a two straight win means for the group.
It is very overwhelming. Words can't explain. We lost two members this week preparing for the parade. And so, while we were on the high from winning the Boxing Day, we also had bittersweet moments in losing two of our black horn blowers.
The chairman revealing that the group began preparing for the New Year's parade before the Boxing Day parade.
It's not just me. It takes 200 plus persons to get this all done. And I am grateful and appreciative of all of One Family members, our sponsors, everything. It was a very trying year for us financially and a lot of hiccups with materials and all of that. But through all of it, we pulled through and we pulled off two successful parades.
And these group members say this win is one to remember.
Plenty hard work, lots of hard work, sleepless nights. We did it. Feel good. Feel good. All the jazz showing, all that. We finally get our two music back.
It's been a rough year coming fresh out of the pandemic, and we had a lot of doubters saying that One Family is trash and all the vice versa, and we just had to prove them wrong.
The Saxons unofficially walking away with the second place win, Roots third, the Valley Boys fourth, Genesis in the fifth position, and the Music Makers in sixth place. And as for the B division,
And the winner of the 2023 New Year's Day Parade, overall winner is Colors. They were penalized 1 point with a score of 85.95.
it was another packed and electric night on Bay Street as eager Junkanoo lovers gathered for the much-anticipated New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade. Berthing McDermott was there to take it all in and has this recap.
The first Category A group to make their way down Bay Street was the Genesis Warhawks, this time with the theme, the Butterfly Kingdom. The group's lead banner depicted a majestic butterfly, with the lead costume taking spectators to a butterfly garden. The second group to come down Bay Street was the Music Makers with the theme Bahamas Treasures, showcasing highlights from the islands of the Bahamas. Then came the Shell Saxon Superstars, the group with something to prove after a fifth place finish at the Boxing Day Parade. The theme, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas in celebration of the 50th anniversary Golden Jubilee. But was it enough to sway these fans?
I feel like we did a marvelous job, and they're going to work extra hard to top that. That's how I feel.
They did enough to win.
I think they did enough to win.
The free dances were beautiful. The music was king-a-lick-king-a-lick-king. Hey, Saxon in the morning. Oh, yes, Saxon all day. Forget about the bird. Forget about the costumes that didn't make any sense. We showed y'all. We gave y'all a comeback.
The Valley Boys showcasing Florida, 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 our neighbors next door, our home away from home.
We took a break and we come back and we march up the road again, bro. The big dogs on the road. First place, no long talking.
Wally was good, but I really think Saxon take this morning. Wally probably comes second.
When it came to Roots, the A category group didn't look far to pick a theme as they depicted Atlantis' rising guardians of the deep. The last A group out the gate was the defending Boxing Day champions One Family, with the theme Happy Hour.
They made a wall on Bay Street. I thought root up Bay Street, but it looked like the Warriors declare war.
We have this in the bag. We don't even have to wait for the results.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
And Junkanoo is not just returning to Bay Street, it also returned to the nation's second city this evening. It's been several years since Grand Bahamas had a full-scale Junkanoo parade due to Hurricane Dorian in 2019 and then the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. We'll have more on how the new parade went in tomorrow's newscast. While Police Commissioner Clayton Fernandez boasting of another smooth Junkanoo parade, following his walkthrough of the New Year's Day parade this morning, Fernandez saying there were no incidents to report. However, he did say a group of young men were taken into police custody.
Earlier, there were a group of young men who was attempting to enter the parade. We suspect that they were up to mischief, and we brought them into custody. They are presently at Central Police Station being sought out at this time. There was about, say, 15 to 20 young men in a group, and we suspect that they were up to no good. We have them at the station, that we are sorting them out as we speak.
Now, Fernando credits the partnership with the Royal Bahamas Defense Force with helping keeping the parade safe. The police commissioner also giving an update on the Boxing Day parade incident where an officer was hit by a car and taken to hospital.
There was one incident where a driver vehicle came through a road check and knocked the railing down, which collided with an officer who was on duty. He was taken to the hospital, treated and discharged. The individual was arrested and he is being sought.
Well, a warm start to the new year as temperatures are heating up. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with a look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and a Happy New Year to you, and a Happy New Year to everybody. This is my first time for the new year, giving you the weather, so yeah, let me just give you that. Shout out to those guys too. One Family did a marvelous job. Beautiful conditions outside our studios right now, 76 degrees with a few clouds. Most of those clouds are basically high-level clouds moving from west to east. Northeast winds at 13 miles per hour, little on the breezy side, and your field-like temperature, a comfortable 75 degrees. Satellite view, high pressure remains in charge of our weather, starting the new year off with a nice bang. Of course, our temperatures have warmed up into the low 80s. We will continue to see this high pressure dominate our weather for the next several days before we do see an actual front get down here. We'll show you that later on in our newscast, but all in all, should be warm temperatures, a little breezy tomorrow, but we expect maybe a small spotty shower or two moving across the islands. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us and look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, a couple killed in their home by two armed gunmen. Find out who police allege is behind the crime. And the Christian Council president claims the government has gone silent on marital rape talks. Plus, find out why the demand for assistance is still high among the less fortunate. That's all coming up when our news returns. The country recorded the first two murders of the year over in Montell Heights. Police tells us that around 3 a.m., a man who was acquitted of home invasion charges was shot to death in his home. Police Commissioner Clayton Fernandez providing these details at the New Year's Day parade.
An adult male and a female who were in a residence, persons entered and shot both persons. That is very much active at this time.
According to reports, the victim and his girlfriend were sleeping in a home when two gunmen burst inside and opened fire. Both victims died at the scene. Our News understands the male victim is Kevin Andrews. Andrews was acquitted of the October 28, 2014 murder of Robert Cartwright during an attempted armed robbery in Blair Estates after a judge directed the acquittal, citing insufficient evidence. Police say they've arrested two suspects for this morning's double murder. Both suspects are in bail for armed robbery and are being electronically monitored. They say Andrews had a prior altercation with one of the suspects. Fernando was asked if a double homicide 2 days into the new year is a concern.
We are focused on what we have. We have a plan of action, and you will hear our plan early in January. And we will have to take the fight to the criminals, because we can't continue, and we will not go into this new year the way 2022 went.
While Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernandez says there have been no further talks with the Christian Council since that meeting with religious leaders on marital rape a few months ago. The controversial issue has garnered mixed reviews since it became a hot-button topic.
I know they haven't consulted me as the council. I don't know. Leading up to that meeting, I know a lot of consultation went on with small groups. So I don't know if it's happening devoid of the council, but nothing has happened with the council.
Now, government released a draft bill to criminalize marital rape that was put out for consultation. Fernando says the church is divided on the issue.
And you don't win the battle by forcing through legislation. You have to now go back and teach and help with the hearts and minds and have workshops and the like and those things, and hear what is the challenge. And some of the challenges are just lack of trust. That can we trust a government of today, tomorrow, or the future to be true to what they say they're trying to accomplish? And that is where we're at.
The Caribbean Development Bank is putting $43.3 million into the construction of a brand new school and rehabilitation of 2 others in East Grand Bahama to accommodate students whose schools were destroyed by Hurricane Dorian in 2019. In a press release, the CDB said the bank's board of directors approved a loan to the government of the Bahamas at its December 9th meeting. Under the project, the East End Primary School will be rehabilitated and a new East Grand Bahama Comprehensive School will be constructed. In addition, 2,000 teachers and principals will be trained in learning recovery and enhancement to address the learning loss caused by COVID-19. Now, the total cost of the project is $48 million, with the government contributing counterpart funding of $4.6 million, $76 million rather. While retired Archdeacon James Palacios is hitting out at the University of the Bahamas alum, saying it is a disgrace that the school's campus is in great need. Palacios says graduates refuse to give back. His comments came as St. John's College class of 1968 donated $160,000 to the school.
It's a disgrace that in this country we have UB, formerly COB, and it's in need of so many different things. And so many people have passed through those walls, and they have refused, not that they aren't able, they have just refused to give magnanimously out of the gratitude of their hearts.
But Palacios did not stop there. He said there are other civic organizations that are also in need of donations.
There are other high schools as well, and other institutions, like the churches, and others that made us who we are today. And so few of us turn back to say thank you.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world. Plus, the pandemic is over, but the need is still great. Find out what the Bahamas Christian Council is doing about it. And volunteers reveal what drives them to feed the needy when our news continues. This is Our News. Welcome back. We now turn our attention to stories making headlines across the world. 2 helicopters collided mid-air on Australia's Gold Coast on Monday, leaving at least 4 people dead. 3 others were taken to the hospital in critical condition. The crash took place close to SeaWorld Resort Australia. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau has launched an investigation into the accident. Images from the crash site shows debris strewn around the area and a mangled helicopter apparently lying upside down opposite the SeaWorld Resort. The other helicopter has the popular Marine Parks logo on its fuselage and appears to have made an emergency landing after the collision.
On initial inquiries, it would appear that one has been taking off and one has been landing. At this stage, it's my understanding that with the 7 people that are injured are from just one helicopter, and all the others are still injured. But we obviously further inquiries are being conducted.
Gunmen opened fire on a prison in Mexico, leaving 10 guards and 4 inmates dead. 13 people were wounded and at least 24 inmates escaped. Heavily armed gunmen in armored vehicles arrived at the prison around 7 a.m. local time and opened fire on the guards. A prison break followed what is believed to be a coordinated attack. The Mexico State Prosecutor's Office later announced on social media that the situation at the prison has been brought under control following a joint operation by the Mexican military. Violence in Ciudad Juarez, located across the border from El Paso, Texas, has continued, with relentless attacks by criminal groups seeking to take control of the city. Last August, a riot at the same prison spread to the streets of the city, with criminals using firearms and Molotov cocktails to attack civilians and local businesses. The attack left 11 dead, including a 4-year-old boy. Tourists visiting Rome joined a steady stream of tens of thousands of people into St. Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to former Pope Benedict XVI. Benedict died on Saturday at the age of 95 in the secluded Vatican monastery, where he had lived since his shock resignation in 2013. The body of Benedict will lie in state in the Basilica for 3 days before his funeral on January 5th, which will be held in St. Peter's Square in front of the Basilica. Visitors bidding farewell to the Pope in Italy today.
I mean, he does not really look so natural. He looked like he had a mask, but you could feel the emotions he had before he died. That's what my impression was.
I'm very emotional. My daughter was born right when he became Pope. So she was actually born without the Pope, and then he was Pope, and then my son was born when he was Pope, and then he left, right? So it's very emotional.
While as the country emerges from the global pandemic, the Christian Council president says there's still a great need, adding that they've run into another category of people in need. Despite this, he says the church is doing its best. Berthany McDermott has the details.
Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernandez says there hasn't been a significant drop-off of people coming to the church in need. Amid the bounce back from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Davis administration touted the hundreds of Bahamians that either returned to work or started their own business. But as Fernandez explains, locals were faced with another challenge.
When we give the moratorium on rent, there's some people who are now a year or 2 behind on their rent. Mortgages, bills are now at a place where they're threatening to turn off as we speak. And so they have to focus their living finances or their discretionary income or that which provides the food to catch up.
Adding to this challenge are escalating inflationary measures. And as the need remains great, Fernandez says it seems a lot of the load is being placed on the church.
We're responding with the best we can. But at some point there has to be an acknowledgement that we have a serious problem of what I call the working poor in our society. And we've got to figure out ways to not just give them fish, but to teach them to buffer their finances. And we're trying to do that as the church through farming, through backyard initiative. It's proven to be effective.
Recently, Prime Minister Philip Davis says his government is doing all it can to combat inflation. In addition to that, Bishop Fernandez made this suggestion.
The basic necessities can be brought in and through a community grocer, maybe the church partners with the state or partners with private entities, where we'll bring in those things that have not been passed on to the people of our country. We can partner with Wonder Bread. We can partner with some of the major grocers and pass it straight on. Now you'll pay something. We have some of these places where there's a can at the door. You pay what you can.
The Christian Council president says there needs to be a greater level of assistance from corporate Bahamas.
We're trying our very best to meet the people where they're at, and we're saying that we need more corporate citizens to come on board. And let's tackle this as a nation. Like I said, maybe it's time for us as a people just to rally together and let the tail wag the dog, as we would say. Let government catch up. While we as a society try to do the best we can.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Still ahead on our news tonight, meet some of the volunteers behind the country's largest feeding programs. And don't go anywhere, your extended weather forecast is straight ahead. That's coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to our news. We're looking forward to less rain. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead at what's expected weather-wise this week. Greg?
Yeah, thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final look at weather on this beautiful evening. Of course, high pressure starting off our new year, 2023, with very nice conditions. Warm temperatures, but a little bit on the breezy side. That high is going to dominate our weather over the next several days with basically tranquil weather conditions. Frontal boundary and a low pressure system taking shape across the southwestern United States. That is the next system that we expect to affect us. And that should be in a Thursday, Friday time frame as this frontal boundary moves across the Gulf of Mexico and approaches Florida. Don't expect much in terms of any cool air mass, but we could see a couple of degrees shaved off our temperatures by the end of the week. Maybe even an isolated shower or two possible as the system gets into our neighborhood. Few spotty showers taking shape across our islands. This is your future forecast this evening. And of course, over the next several days, quiet weather. And then here comes the front. We expect that front to get near sometime, as I mentioned, by Thursday, Friday time frame with a couple isolated showers expected throughout that period. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots. They will be gusting slightly higher at times. Your seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Low tide is at 10:40 this evening. For the central and southeastern islands, a caution flag posted for you guys down there, as well as the risk of rip currents. Easterly winds at 15 to 20 knots. They will be gusting higher times as well. Seas will be running a choppy 4 to 6 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, nothing really to talk about. Beautiful conditions over the next several days. Temperatures will stay in the low to mid 80s. And of course, those nighttime temperatures will be very comfortable near the 70-degree mark. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night and have a happy new year.
Thanks so much, Greg. While the Bahamas Feeding Network is widely known for its push efforts to minimize hunger in the country, but what many people do not see is who's behind the project. Our Jamila Music takes a look in this report.
Hundreds of Bahamians are the daily recipients of meals from the Bahamas Feeding Network. BFN supports over 100 feeding programs across the country. But who are the hands behind the operation? I spoke to volunteer Maureen Williamson, who has been a part of the team for 8 years.
On a daily basis, we come in sometimes 6 or 8 o'clock in the morning. We pack, we clean up, and we distribute groceries. Sometimes 200, 300 people walk in, and we give them the bags.
This month, the team went into overdrive, going above and beyond to ensure that their recipients would have a special meal for the holidays. And while there have been many long days, they share what keeps them going.
I love it very much. For the past 8 years, we've been doing this, and we don't look back. Feeding the people them is a passion. And then we have a boss, Regina Scully. She gives us that passion to drive. And she always say, put the work first. Don't worry what you get. God will look after you.
She's a great motivator. Sometimes, especially like today, it was a low day at the beginning, and now I was able to get back up.
And who exactly is Regina Scully? The BFN distribution manager has been a part of the feeding network for the past 10 years. Although she may be one of the driving forces behind the operation, she says she cannot do it without the help of her team.
My volunteers is a part of my heart, different than God and my children. I truly, truly love my volunteers. They means the world to me. I just can't do without them. When I begin to talk about them, it makes me cry. That's the passion that I have for my volunteers. I'm asking God to forever bless them.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, Jamila, thanks so much. Very inspirational story. And thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.